If you're in the 11th hour of tax season, an IRA contribution may still be one of the few legal moves that can help you reduce your tax bill. If you're watching this in tax season and you're thinking, great, another year where taxes show up like a jump scare, you're not alone. Here's the good news. There's one of the few legal last-minute levers that can still help in the 11th hour. An IRA contribution for last year, made before the deadline. And here's the better news. If you build this properly, an IRA isn't just a tax move, it's a financial system tool that can also be designed to invest in the assets you actually want, including alternative assets like cryptos, if done correctly. Today I'm going to show you how the 11th hour IRA move works, who gets real tax savings and who doesn't, and why having the IRA already built matters if you want to deploy into investments fast without blowing compliance. So here's the deadline reality. First, timing. For a regular traditional IRA or Roth IRA, the contribution window for a tax year generally runs until the tax filing deadline, typically April 15, unless shifted by weekends and holidays. And importantly, filing an extension doesn't automatically extend the IRA contribution deadline for traditional or Roth IRA contributions. So the 11th hour moment is real because the clock is real. So what IRAs actually do for taxes? Traditional versus Roth. Let's keep it very simple. Traditional IRA is the 11th hour tax lever. A traditional IRA can potentially lower your taxable income this year if the contribution is deductible. That's why it's the star of late tax season strategy. You contribute and it may reduce your taxable income for the year you're filing. The Roth IRA is not an 11th hour deduction, but it's powerful. A Roth IRA doesn't give you a current year deduction. It's an after-tax contribution, but can offer tax-free qualified withdrawals later in life. Translation: Roth is usually not to lower the tax bill today, but it's often a build tax-free future growth tool. And here's some contribution limits you need to know for 2025 versus 2026. For tax year 2025, the IRA contribution limit in Pub 590A is referenced at $7,000 or $8,000 if you're 50 or above. For tax year 2026, the IRS increased the IRA limit to $7,500 and the catch-up for people over 50 to $1,100, making that $8,600. Here's a very important detail. Your IRA contribution can't exceed your taxable compensation for the year. So here's the big catch: deductibility. Who actually gets the tax break? Contribution is not equal to deduction. Here's what people mess up. They think, I contributed, therefore I deducted. Not necessarily. Your traditional IRA contribution may be fully deductible, partially deductible, or non-deductible depending on whether you or your spouse are covered by a workplace retirement plan and your modified adjusted gross income is between certain thresholds of income. For 2026, the IRS lists phase-out ranges for deductibility when covered by a workplace plan, such as single, covered by a workplace plan, starting at $81,000, and it phases out completely at $91,000. Married filing jointly, it starts at $129,000, and it phases out completely at $149,000. And if you're married, filing jointly, and you're not covered, but your spouse is, there's a higher range, the phase out up to $252,000 for 2026. So the 11th hour question is, will this contribution actually be deductible for me? Because if it's not deductible, it may still be useful, but it may not reduce this year's tax bill. So here's the 11th hour IRA playbook. Step by step, do this in order. Step number 1. Confirm you have taxable compensation. No earned income, taxable compensation means you may not be eligible to contribute. Step number 2, decide traditional versus Roth based on this year's goal. Want possible tax deduction now? Traditional IRA, if deductible. Want tax-free growth later? Roth IRA. It's subject to eligibility and there's phase-outs. Step number 3, make the contribution before the deadline and label the tax year. IRA contributions are time sensitive. Custodians typically let you select which tax year the deposit applies to. Don't assume. Verify during the deposit flow. Step number 4, document it. If you're taking a deduction, you need clean records and accurate tax prep decisions, especially if you're in a phase-out range or doing non-deductibility contributions. That's what we call Form 8606. So I know we're talking about the 11th hour, But why do we want to have IRAs built before tax season and not create it in panic mode? Here's the truth. Most people discover the IRA strategy in April, and then they try to build the entire infrastructure in 48 hours, while stressed, confused, and making decisions with a calculator and pure fear. But IRAs are most powerful when they're already in place because you can contribute early and compound longer. You can execute rollovers, transfers intentionally. And if you're self-directing into alternative assets, you need time to set up the custody and compliance correctly. This is translated as the IRA isn't just a tax move, it's an operating system component of long-term strategy. You might ask, invest in the assets you want? What are self-directed IRAs? And what's this whole notion of crypto? Now the fun part, investing beyond index funds. A self-directed IRA is still an IRA, same core tax rules, but it can hold a broader range of investments depending on the custodian and the platform. That can include alternative assets like real estate, private deals, and in some structures, crypto exposure. But here's the warning that matters. There's such things as prohibited transactions. Or how I'd like to say it is, the IRA can be blown up. The IRS has clear rules. Certain transactions between your IRA and disqualified persons known as you, certain family members, and related entities are prohibited. Examples: borrowing from the IRA, using IRA assets as security for a loan, and buying property for personal use with IRA funds. And if a prohibited transaction happens, the IRA can stop being an IRA as of the first day of the year, treated as distributed, and it's potentially taxable. Let me translate that as you don't wing it with self-directed retirement investing. You architect it. So yes, an IRA can be the framework that lets you invest in assets you want, including crypto exposure, but only if you keep it compliant and properly structured. So let me break down the 11th hour myth versus reality, what IRAs can and cannot do. Let me keep expectations realistic. IRAs can reduce taxable income. IRAs can create tax-deferred or potentially tax-free growth frameworks. IRAs can be part of a strategy to invest in a broader range of assets through self-directed custodial frameworks. IRAs are not magic. If you're not eligible for a deduction, you might not get the tax savings today effect. IRAs don't excuse sloppy accounting, especially when income is complex. Here's the bottom line. If you're in the 11th hour of tax season, an IRA contribution may still be one of the few legal moves that can help you reduce your tax bill. And if you're eligible for a deduction and you execute it correctly, but the real win isn't just a last-minute deduction. The real win is building a system where retirement planning, tax strategy, cash flow, and investment structure all work together year-round. And if you want that built into a real operating system, especially if you're investing in alternative assets like crypto and need clean books and compliance, Numeratus.us helps you implement this the right way. Visibility, documentation, structure, and execution without the panic, because the goal isn't save taxes once. The goal is build a system that compounds.